The Edge of Sleep has finally released, Markiplier's brand new show, which isn't really Markiplier's brand new show, he's really only an actor in it, but that still doesn't stop the show from being absolutely fucking amazing. I was just sitting there watching the show, and anytime Markiplier says a line, I'm out here just starting to fanboy out. And Markiplier was just a really good actor in this movie. All his scenes felt really believable, and as much as I love me some Wilfred Motherlovin' Warfstache, it was also interesting to see him pull off a serious character as well. And not just Markiplier, but all the actors in this show were actually really phenomenal. They even had Leo Tipton in the cast, the lady who goes on to play, well, Lady in Space with Markiplier. And although I was originally hoping to make a theory about all the mystery that this show sets up, I honestly feel like this show kind of answered any questions I had left. Essentially, the elephant fuckhead who looks like he came from Francis's experiments is really evil, the whale is a god, and the dream cult fuckers are really our saviors. Pretty straightforward, right? Well, there is a cliffhanger at the very end. All of a sudden, everyone who was asleep began to open up their eyes, having weird triangles inside of their pupils, and are now presumably going to serve the elephant. So this definitely seems like it's setting up for a season 2, especially because the original podcast, the source material for the show, is also trying to get a season 2 out there as well. Although it's probably going to be a good couple years at least until we see it. Based on my research, it seems like the creators of The Edge of Sleep are going to try to film season 2, specifically the podcast version of it, either this year or next year, just sometime around this time. We can assume that they've at least haven't started yet because Markiplier literally just got done filming Iron Lung. And even then, for a show adaptation of a season 2 would also be many years after they released the podcast version of season 2, just based off of how long it took to transition season 1 from a podcast to a show. Because Markiplier originally filmed The Edge of Sleep before he even filmed In Space with Markiplier. So all this to say, pretty much don't expect a season 2 to come right around the corner. But when season 2 eventually releases, what should we be expecting story-wise? That is the question we will be getting into today. So without further ado, let's begin. Now, one thing that'll be especially interesting is the way a season 2 of the show will differ from a season 2 of the podcast. Now, spoiler warning for the podcast, but in episode 8, Mateo actually ends up dying during the plane crash whenever they're trying to make it to the island. Now, unlike Katie, we actually don't have full 100% confirmation of his death. He kind of just doesn't float back up after the plane crashes. And then Dave and Linda just kind of come to the conclusion that he's dead and just move on. So technically, he could still be alive. Maybe they're planning to reveal him to be alive in season 2 of the podcast, and it's just because of the shortened runtime of the show compared to the full-length podcast episodes. That's just one of the plot points they'd rather kind of skip for the show and go ahead and have him survive. That would definitely not be the show's first time skipping a major plot point or a few events that happened in the podcast version due to runtime. Like, instead of them conveniently finding an old lady in the show who's already pretty close to dying, for them to run the brain scans on as she goes to sleep. Instead, there's a whole other villain in the Edge of Sleep podcast that's like this van-driving creep who kidnaps women, who ends up kidnapping our core 4 until they manage to get the upper hand, capture him, and use him for the brain scans. And because he's already such a fucked up human, they don't really feel bad whenever he's kind of forced to die for the brain scan. No, I can't believe the show got rid of my favorite character, Mr. Van Creeper. How dare they? 0 out of 10. Yeah! In all honesty though, taking out this little side villain in the show I feel like was the right idea because he didn't really fit much into the plot otherwise. He was just kind of a weird standout character. But in all honesty, it will be pretty cool in the podcast to see if he ends up going after Dave and the rest of the gang, considering that anybody who died in their sleep in the show is now possessed by the weird triangle fuckers. And speaking of which, the weird triangle fuckers. It'll be really interesting to see how the whole world is affected by all these people who died in their sleep now coming back as essentially the triangle zombies, or whatever you would like to call them. I'm especially curious what they're going to do with the overall tone of season 2 now that this sort of idea of this mystery is somewhat thrown out the window. If anything, it'll seem like season 2 is more apocalyptic, sort of Walking Dead-ish. But who knows, there definitely seems like there could be a lot more of the lore to try to expand upon. However, what we do know is that last year the creators of The Edge of Sleep released released a book spin-off talking about other characters around the world and their story whenever this incident occurred. Now I'm gonna be completely honest, I have not read this book, so I don't know how it ends or how much it ties back to the Dream People specifically, but what this book does seem to tell us at least is that there are other people around the world who were awake whenever this massive outbreak occurred. And so it could very well be possible that the protagonists of this book, whoever they are, if they survived until the end, they could be teaming up with Dave and the rest of our gang in the second season. But that kind of all relies on the assumption that the main characters actually live at the end of the book. I don't know. I didn't read it. I'm not a nerd. There's also one last major difference between the podcast and the show, and that's the fact that the podcast actually introduces the triangle-possessed sleeping people earlier. While Dave and the gang is on their way to the airport, they're suddenly stopped by a few triangle people outside of the hospital, who proceed to try to attack them as they make their escape, with also even Katie locking herself inside of the van because she knew she was gonna fall asleep and end up becoming one. This doesn't really mean much besides confirming what we already thought about the triangle people, the fact that they're evil and they're gonna try to kill our protagonist. So based off of all we know, let's go ahead and think of a possible plot synopsis for season 2. Now that Dave, Linda, and Mateo have all gotten a chance to catch up on their much needed sleep, they think they see someone approaching them from a distance. It's Katie. It doesn't take them long to realize the triangles in her eyes. Whenever they go to ask the Dream People what the fuck is going on, all they get is, "A war is coming, Dave-san. You are the chosen one. You must fight. Triangle people. Elephant is big bad. Elephant got big cock. Beat cock. No. Defeat cock. Save humankind. You understand, Davidson?" Behold, my name is Markiplier. I mean David. And I'm here to save humanity. I must go with my friends, fully rested, outside of this island and into the Walking Dead. Not dead, the Walking Triangle people. When I look up from my pillow, oh man, I'm tired. You guys, maybe the edge of sleep was the friends we made along the way. Now that we prevented the apocalypse from happening, I may start a YouTube channel. Hey yo Dave, check my shit out. I just got some pliers at the market. I didn't even know they sell these market pliers.
Say that again?
And it's all revealed to be the Markiplier lore all along. Dave, he's actually Wilford Warfstache. He pulls off his face, and it's just a mask the whole time, but he still looks like Markiplier. But now he just has a pink mustache to go with it. It's Wilford Mother-Lovin' Warfstache. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did enjoy, and I will see y'all in the next video. Goodbye!